The media landscape in the US and elsewhere is extremely worrisome, largely due to two reasons. One is, of course, media ownership defines all media production and the trends and the news framing and coverage that it undertakes. In 1983, nearly 50 companies owned the US media, or about 90% of the media we consume here. In 2019, it's just 5 companies. So there's been more and more concentration. This is having serious ramifications on not just the quality of journalism, but also the quality of democracy in the US. So that's the first issue. The second, as Alison very rightly said about the gradual wiping away of local journalism. So in the last 15 years, guess how many newspapers have shut down in the US? 2,000. 2,000 newspapers in 15 years have gone off the map, which means that a lot of community issues, the local issues, the checking local institutions and holding them accountable, that space is not there. Some of these papers have been acquired by larger media outlets, thereby creating bigger monopolies. And that's a threat to the overall media landscape, and that is why independent media outlets, the kind of outlets that we work with, that we try to tell the students about and weigh you and steer you towards, are very important because they bring those issues which the mainstream ignores. What does the mainstream ignore? The mainstream ignores the most critical and pressing problems faced by the US and the globe today. How many people are poor in America? Does anyone know here? Can someone answer a figure? It's not a test, so don't worry, Diane won't take away your credit. So it's because you don't hear about it, you don't read about it. There are 43 million people classified officially as poor in the United States. And the poverty line set by the within the US is not very high. It's barely enough to buy basic food items and perhaps get a place to live, like basic shelter. And we don't read about it because nobody talks about the fact that in the world's only superpower, with a mighty military machine, with all the influence in the world, with all the resources in the world, there are so many people living in abject poverty. How many people are without health insurance in America? Can someone answer? Did you ever read about it? Or hear it on CNN? No, you would not. 41 million people still, despite Obamacare, despite other reform, do not have insurance or access to full insurance. They are underinsured or they're absolutely not insured, which basically means if they have a serious illness, they will just die. It's as dire as that. Is the US media highlighting such issues? Are they sensitizing the public so that the public holds politicians, policymakers, the Congress, the president, the local structures to account? No. Climate change, we are here in upstate New York, there's a drought ongoing. There's a drought in many parts of America. Last year, a UN intergovernmental panel said that the time for the entire mankind to change the way we live, the way we consume resources, the way we drive our cars, fly our planes is very limited because global warming is going to create havoc. These increased frequency in natural disasters, we hear them as sensational stories. Hurricane this, hurricane that, but we are never informed. Young adults are not informed that it is due to climate change. It is due to global warming. It is due to the depletion of non-renewable energy sources, the exploitation of fossil fuels, and the way these lobbies finance politicians and influence media outlets, and their owners hide these issues from the public. That to me is a worry. It's not a worry just limited to the US, by the way. In Brazil, only 8 companies. It's the largest country in Latin America. In India, there are 3 or 4 big corporations which own nearly 80% of media. And wherever you see concentration of wealth, concentration of special interests, democracy is compromised. Democracy is about equal access, as was mentioned. It's about local grassroots activism and the ability to know your issues and pressurize those in power, those who can change things, to change the way the world works. I'll quickly take 2 or 3 other examples of gun violence. Each time you look at a mass shooting, I mean, first of all, it is crazy that kids have access to guns and they can bring guns to schools. I mean, I just cannot understand. It is unbelievable that it is allowed to happen here. And secondly, the public is not informed that it is not the shooter who's the problem. It is not shooter's mental illness, loneliness, lack of friends. It is the gun in his hand and easy access. And that's where media is again failing the public. It is not mounting enough pressure. It is not informing people that we have to do something about gun violence. Finally, I'll quickly talk about the increased income and wealth inequality. More than 100 years ago, the world was as unequal as it is today. The top 1% in the United States, in fact, top 1% of that 1% own or have access to more than 80% of the total wealth. How can a democracy be functional, robust, and egalitarian for all if you have these levels of inequality? There's nothing wrong in making money. There's nothing wrong in being rich. There's nothing wrong in aspiring for a good and comfortable life. But to have obscene amounts of money accumulating in few hands, in few bank accounts, is unacceptable in a democracy. It happens in a kleptocracy, in a dictatorship, but not in a people's democracy. It's time to collect taxes from these super rich corporations and have a better healthcare system for all, fix the infrastructure, end all sorts of public service gaps and deficits in the US to create a more welfarist, more egalitarian society than we have now. I think I've taken more.